Hi friends, and welcome to the Dungeon Lore Guide for the Dusk Vigil. This is likely going to be the first dungeon you're going to encounter in Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward, and you're going to have to do it if you want to start flying in Western Korthus. In this guide, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on some of the lore behind the dungeon, and then I will get into the three bosses and the mechanics you'll be dealing with as you fight them. So first, we're going to start off with the lore. The Dusk Vigil was a fortress, and it was being kept by a bunch of Knights of Ishgard led by Sir Yemeric, who, if you played the 1.0 version of Final Fantasy XIV, you might remember because he was part of a couple side quests, I think for the Conjurer class. But now it is just a frozen ruin because when the Calamity struck, winter spread across Ishgard and has kept it that way for, all of 2.0 and now 3.0. You will be going into Dusk Vigil at the request of a person called Wheeltheo, who wants you to collect an ice rondelle from the Vigil's chapel. As you progress through the dungeon, you're going to start to find torn journal pages on the ground that inform you of what happened in the Vigil after it was sealed shut during the Calamity. And it's quite frightening actually, because there's some things like, cannibalism and then zombification, which we'll talk about when we get to some of the bosses. Speaking of bosses, we'll just go right into that because that's a good transition. That's how that works. All right, anyway, first boss. Your first boss is going to be a giant mammoth called Oliphant, and he has some pretty simple mechanics. There's nothing too difficult. Certain points throughout the fight, he's going to single target one person, and when he does, he's either going to do Woolly Inspiration, which is a frontal cone, which sucks in a player and then shoots them up into the air, which makes them stunned for a little bit, or he's going to do Rout, which is a frontal column charge attack that's going to knock the player back just a little bit. And then once you get him down past about 50 to 30% health, he'll start to do them in combinations. So he'll use Woolly Inspiration, fling you in the air, and then he'll use Rout and slam you in the face. It's nothing too heavy on damage. It could take you down fairly low, especially in these early levels, but your healer should be able to get you back up to full pretty quickly. The other things to keep an eye out for are Rear, which is just a point-blank AoE that tanks and melee will have to watch out for, and he'll also do Prehistoric Trumpet, which is a room-wide AoE that will have to be healed through by the healer. And once you get those mechanics down, you're going to be putting Elephant back on the extinction list, because puns, woolly mammoths, they're extinct. Puns, it's good. Giggle. Please giggle. And now we're on to the second boss. Remember when I told you about zombification and cannibalism? Well, here it is. You'll be facing Sir Yemeric, who once, commanded Dusk Vigil. Now he's a frozen zombie. And you're going to need to do something about that because you just can't. You can't let that hang around. But your party, you're going to want to stay pretty close to this one. Watch out for Tumulus, which is a point-blank AoE that you're going to have to dodge. And then every so often, he's going to cast Brain Drain. And it's going to be a room-wide AoE, does some damage, so you'll have to heal through it. But once he's done casting, he's going to raise a number of zombie ads from the ground. The tank can grab them, but if your DPS is high enough, you should be able to just burn them down fairly quickly, so you won't have to worry too much about it. But as he does Brain Drain throughout the fight, the number of ads will increase. The final ability Yohelmic will use is called Death Spiral. It'll be signaled by a large red indicator that's going to cover most of the floor, but there's a very small safe zone close to the boss, which is the reason why you want to stay pretty close to him throughout the fight. But it's easily avoidable, and depending on where you're keeping him tanked, you'll have a safe spot by him, or you could have a safe spot in one of the corners if some of the ranged DPS are further to the outside edge than they are close to the boss. Keep up with ads and watch out for the Death Spiral, and this zombie commander will be out cold. Yes, more puns. You're gonna have a bunch of puns, just deal with it. And once you make it through that, you'll be on to your last boss, which is Openickis, who you've probably seen, as everyone's been flying on the backs of griffins, and this is just a big griffin. He just has a few mechanics, and it's nothing you really haven't encountered in some of your previous dungeons. The first ability he's probably going to use is called Alpine Drift. It's a frontal column attack, and it's very easy to avoid, just step to the sides. You could also hide behind a pillar. It's a risk because he could destroy the pillar and you're going to need those later. Every so often, Openickis is going to target a single person with free fall, and you're not going to get an indicator for this one. It's just going to kind of be one of the red target arrows will come out of him and you'll see him do a cast. You want to kind of try to spread out from everyone because it does do splash damage. It's kind of an AoE, but it doesn't have a marker for it, so whoever gets targeted just kind of get away from the rest of your party just to avoid any unnecessary damage. The main mechanic you're going to run into is called Whirling Jail, and this is a large twister in the middle of the room that will suck anyone who is not hiding behind a pillar into the center, causing a wind resistance debuff, a quick ride into the air, and a decent amount of damage. So just hide so your healer doesn't have to heal through you, and plus it makes you more susceptible to his other attacks, which is not good. But the last ability you're going to have to watch out for is called Winds of Winter. This also does a wind resistance debuff, and you can line of sight it you have to line of sight behind a pillar to Openickis, so wherever he is when he's casting, you want to hide behind a pillar. Now when he does this, it's going to destroy all the pillars in the room, and then more will fall, so you just have to keep an eye out and see where they land, so you can either get yourself ready for the next Whirling Jail or Winds of Winter. And you just rinse and repeat that until Openickis is turned into a down pillow. Like that pun? That was a good pun. You should appreciate that pun. I worked hard on those puns. If this guide was helpful and you enjoyed my puns, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I will be doing more guides and some more Final Fantasy content and other RPG things. They're going to come out kind of slow. I'm taking my time with these. I just don't want to miss anything, any of the mechanics, and leave you guys in the dark. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!